All right, guys, we're taking a look at the 812 Superfast, and today I have my good buddy Tosin. What's up? Tosin loves cars. I love cars, so all we do is talk about cars. And I don't know exactly what the future is for this car currently, so I won't comment on that. But I will comment on the fact that I'll say, like, it took me a little bit of time to understand this car. This car grows on you. It's very different. I've never owned a car like this before, now that I think about it.
The platform's unique.
Like, with it being a GT, with it being, you know, a heavier car.
It's a GT with beyond supercar levels of performance. You know what I mean?
And I think that that's like kind of a new category if you think about it. Like, there was always a choice before. It was like you needed to have this GT car that would be comfortable if you were to take a trip through Europe, you know, from England to Switzerland or something. And you should do it in comfort and be very, very fast. And if you're on the Autobahn, you should be able to go top speed. It should be very stable, comfortable, and your AC should work. And then now we've got something where they've just basically infused supercar DNA into this thing. So it gets to sort of behave like a supercar. Are we allowed to talk about what car you have?
Sure.
Yeah, so you have a 48, which is an obscenely fast car. But that's obviously turbocharged. It's got that 3.9 liter twin turbo V8. This thing is naturally aspirated. My favorite thing about the engine on this is the 6.5 liter naturally aspirated V12.
Should we show the engine?
Yeah, we probably should. Should probably show the engine. This engine makes as close as doesn't matter to 800 horsepower, about 530 pound-feet of torque. And that's naturally aspirated. Those are turbocharged numbers. This is like always a bit of a faff to open, but you got it. There we go.
It's really light.
Yeah, right. The hood, I wonder. I think it's just being assisted, but yeah, this thing's a showpiece, and it's beautiful, and it's
I mean, in some ways you're paying for that.
I think this is mostly what you're paying for, and now that I've driven it a bit more, I think that is worth the price of admission right there. This is a very unique engine. It might be the single best engine I've ever encountered, if I'm honest, because it allows you to have that turbocharged level of power and sort of grunt and speed, but you have the naturally aspirated response and, more importantly, the sound. This thing revs to 8,900 RPM, so
It's so insane. They're not making engines like this readily, so
I don't think they're gonna make them anymore. I think this might be kind of, other than like special edition and one-off piece unique cars, I think as a production model like this and the GTS might be the last bastion for these kinds of engines.
Yep.
And what they did was they took the F12 engine, which already had 700 something horsepower, and they were like, you know what, let's just bore it out. So make it 6.5, because that's how you do it, you know? You can't just like tune it, add more boost when it's naturally aspirated.
More displacement.
So yeah, just there's no replacement for displacement.
What about styling? We were talking about how this is. It's a grand car.
It's a very big car, you know? Like, I know this sounds silly, and I don't really buy into this kind of stuff, but especially when you're sitting behind the wheel. Let me see if I can kind of show you guys. See, what would you call these? Haunches? Shoulders?
Yeah.
You know? And you see these in front of you, and you see what a long sort of hood it is as you're driving. Like, it does have this sort of big boss feel, which is silly, I know. But
Well, it's like an exaggerated car.
it's very exaggerated. It's almost cartoonish. You know, it has that thing where like certain cars that are similar would be called a shoe. This doesn't look like a shoe, but you know, similar to like the AMG GTR and maybe a little bit of like Dodge Viper in the very, very long hood, right? And it almost like classic 2/3 car proportions, right? But it is taller than an AMG GTR, and the cabin is very large as a result, and it's long.
One thing Ferrari does really well is seamlessly integrating the aero into the body of the car. So you have all these slits and cuts, and they're all functional, and you're making a ton of downforce. But the design is informed too by its aerodynamics. You know, there's some inlets. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's very. There's almost like an elegant chiseled look out of the side.
Absolutely. And you could sort of see the flow of the air, right? And you could follow its path logically from the front to back. So very functional vents. But on top of that, we may disagree on this. I know you like a big wing, and I like a big wing too. But I do think there's something very pure about a design where the design's unbroken by a wing. You know, if the wing is sort of integrated into the design, that's one thing. But as you said, like this has a lot of aero. It's got like a DRS system, like under and like sort of behind this rather large diffuser on the rear. So it is doing a lot of cool aero trickery. This little gap here actually I believe is meant to capture turbulent air and like create a little vortex. So all this stuff is very deliberate, and you've got effectively a ducktail there. But you know, all this stuff is the pure delta of form and function as far as I'm concerned. And I remember when this car came out, especially coming from the F12, which was a very beautiful car. A lot of people like, oh, I don't know about the design. And to be honest, I didn't know about the design either. Seeing it in person, it is a very striking car.
You have to see it in person.
You kind of do.
Its dimensions don't always translate in photos. And then a lot of the details, like even these, they're almost like flying buttresses.
Yeah.
But subtly tucked away, these folds here,
Yeah, like I don't know exactly what these things are for, if that's for like negative air pressure or just brake cooling or engine cooling or what. But all of this stuff, was designed to make this thing go faster, and yet it integrates beautifully in the design. And there's a very three-dimensional sort of approach to these things. It's not sort of like 2D flat planes and like how do you add this vent or NACA duct or whatever there, It's kind of a modern flowing design. And of course, there's always that time-old adage of like the car should look like it's going fast when it's stationary. And I do think that because of all the sweeping lines and the way everything sort of flows back, this definitely does have that.
100%.
So yeah, I mean, that's a basic overview of the exterior. I love how they went back to the 4 lights on the rear. I feel like that's a very classic Ferrari thing.
Yeah.
Circular, especially 4 circular lights. You get 4 real enough exhausts. I don't know. That's a big thing for me.
I like how they match the diffuser.
You can match it. You could get carbon fiber. You could do whatever you want, really. But I think it does look good in the same color as the body. And I suppose we could do an interior overview at some other point. But here's a quick view of the interior. And I think, Ferrari have definitely been milking this design for the better part of a decade. So it's very familiar to people who know their Ferraris. But
these quote-unquote comfort seats aren't necessarily the most comfortable, but I do think they look more aggressive than, say, the 488 comfort seats.
I think like this is just the last revision of this interior, and you see it's very, very familiar but slightly tweaked, whether it's the seats or the steering wheel, which is just one more, like they you could tell they've refined a few things. Like, for example, these turn signals could always take a little bit getting used to, but you can actually access them from the back now, which is kind of handy. Ferrari always has this philosophy of having everything within reach on the steering wheel, so you never need to leave it. And one of my favorite things, which I'm sure you would appreciate as well, is the horn is now back in the center and not on the...
Nothing like needing to honk at somebody and just failing.
Or accidentally honking at the track because like you're taking a corner a little bit hot. Because on the other cars, it was basically here, which is an interesting place to put it.
The Elise had the same horn placement.
The Elise did? No way.
On the actual ring of the steering wheel.
Yeah, I think sometimes people try to solve problems that don't exist. At the end of the day, when you're trying to honk, you're probably going to be reaching for the center of your steering wheel. Again, everything else, like, can't really see the controls now, but have the digital readout there, which is nice after a decade of having sort of analog things. You got like a little passenger display, which actually you didn't have that turned on. We should turn that on. Oh, you did turn it on. Yeah, okay.
You can see the unreasonable speeds you were carrying.
I was going 55 miles an hour unless indicated lower. And what's cool also is we got this nice little parcel shelf here, and that's pretty handy. It's got stuff that it's got little leather straps for you to tie stuff down, which is very handy in case you do want to drive a little bit faster. And then, where is it? There we go. This thing is actually technically a hatchback. So, it's, dare I say, a bit practical. You'll have to pardon the cover. But there's quite a bit of space in here. And yeah, and although this doesn't fold down, there you got your sort of feature plate there that they always do.
A few specs on there.
Yeah, a few specs. I got two rows instead of one, so I've done all right.
I actually really like this, deviated stitching leather straps for this sort of shelf. There's just something very...
This adds a level of class.
Luxury, classy, and it's Ferrari things.
But what I also like is the fact that you actually could probably just load stuff from this side, because getting in from the cabin might be a little bit more difficult. I mean, you can always pull the strap on the seat and bring it forward. which is totally viable. But it's kind of nice you could just drop stuff into here, and you've sort of got this open storage area. So as far as practicality, surprisingly practical. But yeah, I mean, I think that's I think we've gone over everything. What have we missed, Tosin?
I don't think we've missed.
I think we've been pretty thorough here. So yeah, that's a pretty good overview of the exterior, some of the interior. Look at that. Analog tech, that's the way to do it. Of this A12 Superfast. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks, Tosin.
My pleasure.